Is it? Is it working? There we go. I think it's working now. All right. Hopefully my camera is participating. Trying a different angle this time so you get to see my beautiful side. And we will hope that sword friends can join, because without any plans, it's going to be a very boring and only live stream. I should also preface that while I'm pouring my beer here, my plan for the stream, hopefully the sound isn't making you all have to pee. Plan is to stream for about an hour, and then it's my Twitch day, and I've missed it for a lot of times. So I'm going to make good kind of on my commitment to go back over there towards the end of the stream. But that is my plan. Hopefully the stream is working, because I'm not sure if it is. But provided it is, you can all see the pretty angle this time. I think I put a tripod in a better place. Maybe not, though, because now camera here, screen here. What do I do? I could pull my dumb screen out. That's what I could do. Isn't it fun watching people try to figure out how to do things that they should already know how to do? This is marginally better, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Sorry for the loud noises. Hello, Speed Gears. Hopefully, oh shit. Hopefully I didn't break everything. Hello. It looks like a few folks are joining, which is good. I have, as is typical for me, no plans. I'm doing the stream yet again at a completely random time in the day with no announcements whatsoever. So no surprise if there's not a huge crowd, but I figured I had some time before I was going to stream on Twitch, which I should make good on, and I will do later today. But I thought before I did that, I would hop on YouTube and stream for a hot minute, because I'm off of work right now and I don't have to do that. So that's good. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, I'll get along with that. Well, anyways, as is typical, I can find something to blab about, but I don't have any particular plans. So if anyone has any sword-related questions, throw them in the chat. I will endeavor to answer, and that is fun for me. I certainly enjoy it, and hopefully it's helpful, and I try to make it through the questions. So if you have any, throw them in there. If you don't, then I will blabber on inanely about something else. Chase. Hey, Matthew, first time making it to a live stream. I'm glad you could make it. I've been watching your videos for several years now. Love the content. Well, I'm glad you do. I'm trying to make stuff, and it's always helpful to hear that people enjoy it and that it's helpful, or puts a smile on your face or does something. So thank you for the kind words. I had a thought, and it's processing, which is not great for live streams. But I do want to say I'm not great at taking positive feedback. I've been told this a few times. I do want to note, though, that when people say that the content is helpful, it does genuinely mean a lot. There are certainly times where my life is a little more focused on creating content. It goes in waves, right? But sometimes it's thankless work, and nice comments go a really long way to making motivation and making you feel like, putting positive vibes in there. So I do genuinely appreciate it. Hopefully what I said earlier didn't seem disingenuous. I genuinely appreciate the positive comments that people throw my way. But that said, there's not a huge amount of stuff in the chat right now, so I will endeavor to just blabber on about some things. I did test the Topeka, and I have it over here. So in the last live stream I did, this was a whole sort, and now it's not. And I made a video about it, and the video is done, actually. I turned this out in pretty record time. I got the sword and broke it and tested it in what is record time for me, because, well, I guess you'll have to wait for the video to find out why. But suffice to say, it's now broken. And so it looks like this. And so that's neat. It's kind of a neat broken sword look. But you probably won't see the video for a minute. One, because I have some others uploaded that will probably take priority. But two, because I screwed up the video and I let my dumb computer run all day long rendering this video. And I found out that like I missed the first like 5 minutes. And it hasn't been the first time that I've done this. I'm forgetting how to use the software that I use. And I tell it to render the wrong sections of the video. And so if you ever see the video just start where I'm mid-sentence, I've done that. Or if you see it like clip off mid-thought, again, that's what's happened. But with said Topeka that I just put down, I did get a chance to smash it into things, which was quite a hoot. I cut shaving cream cans. I went to the dollar store, bought some stuff, and bags of flour were very uneventful. I tied it on a string and hung it from a branch, and I thought it would be this really cool, spectacular shot, and it was not. It was really lame. The shaving cream cans, though, don't disappoint. Those are always fun to be just like a jizz bomb right in your face. I don't. Yeah, that's anyway. Aside from the money shot of the shaving cream can, the rest of the stuff was a little uneventful. Got a 2-liter bottle of soda. It was okay, but didn't I don't know, didn't have the same effect. So I was hoping for something cooler, but I did get a chance to have some fun chopping some stuff with it before it broke. So at least that much was fun. I also read a question on Sword Buyer's Guide that talked about, that was asking questions about the DSA and not the DSA, sorry, the Topeka Castilian, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, in comparison to a different one I have up there, Kingston Arms Type 14, and how similar they are. So I took some measurements of that one, and I'll probably do a quick review of the Kingston Arms one in the not too distant future as well, because it's very similar. And while the feeling of the Topeka piece is fresh in my hand for people that were considering those two swords, I at least actually have them close by, and I've unfortunately don't have them kind of hand in hand to do that. It dawned on me afterward that I have a very similar sword. Maybe comparisons would be helpful, but unfortunately, smashy smash happened first. So I did take detailed measurements of it before it was destroyed, though. So at least I can compare that. Anyway, there's some fun thoughts. Ooh, I got some chat stuff. Not a raccoon. I'm Matthew. First time making it to the stream. Welcome. Might be in and out working at Eagan Home Depot tonight. Well, no worries. Eagan, is that Eagan, Minnesota? Because that's very nearby. Well, not very nearby, but I know people there because that's near where I live. Relatively speaking, compared to some of the people watching, I mean. Size 7'1". Hey Matt, any opinions on Dotanuki Katana? Ever review any? A few of them, and some that maybe weren't labeled that. As far as I understand it, and I could be off base here, but the blade means like body cutter or something like that, and it's a thicker and more robust blade. I generally, if you ask me which sword would I want to go to a samurai feudal war with, it'd probably be something akin to a thicker blade of that style. Not necessarily Dotanuki, but a more robust blade that I could potentially whack the side of the sword on and hit pole arms and things like that, and not have to worry about it bending or completely destroying the sword, but something not necessarily overly hefty, but robust. And I know Ronin Katana advertises a number of their blades as Dotanuki style, and I'm working on a review for the Dojo Pro number 30, and I have reviewed in the past a number of other Ronin Dojo Pro products, and they are, I think, in a Dotanuki style. So you can check those videos out and see if any of them suit your fancy. Otherwise, I don't know if they're advertised as Dotanuki, but if I think of the term as more robust, the Hanwei Ronin, so not Ronin Katana Dojo Pro, but the Hanwei series Ronin Katana. They have their own 47 Ronin themed katana, and it is a more robust blade. The Bugei Samurai is a more robust, kind of thicker, beefier blade. Those are the ones, at least, that immediately come to mind as kind of chonkers that are suitable for deflecting pole arms potentially. Hunter, keep up the good work. Any ideas on reasonably priced shinken for Bato Iaido? Thinking of either Huawei or Skydro. Thinking either Huawei or Skydro look like the best bang for the buck, but the wait times kind of turn me off those two. That's a fair question, but you're right. Those seem to be the best bang for the buck options, and I don't know that a better option specifically for Iaido that would come to mind. If you're doing kata and trying to improve in Iaido and the like and want to use the shinken, then on a budget, those seem to be about the best in terms of fit and finish. And to preface, like when I say they're really good at that, for folks that are looking to do non-study of Japanese swordsmanship, but practice in the backyard, and you want to cut things and have something very resilient to shits and giggles in the backyard, then like the Dojo Pro is great, but the Dojo Pro, resilient as it is, has a little bit looser ito. The saya doesn't draw as well, and the Dojo Pro that I have has wax on it to protect the blade. And when you're doing EI and drawing and sheathing the sword hundreds of times in an evening, that waxy stuff like gets back on the sword and is not as fun to do for Iaido. So Skydro and Huawei have been so far the most compelling offerings that I've gotten from, or that I've gotten to see in terms of how they draw, how they sheathe. They're not perfect by any means, so I would argue that an equivalently priced Japanese-made Iaido is probably going to be a better tool for EI. But if you're determined to buy a moderately priced shinken, then I would say either of those two is probably the better option. As a side note, if you hear baby crying in the background, that is my boy. He does not care that I'm streaming, so that might happen. Oh, that's yummy beer. Just got a Huawei blade. Only took 2 months. Glad to hear. Did you buy one that was in stock? Did you order it new? I don't know how to properly say side 0071. 00071. Anyway, did you buy a new Huawei piece like off their website and then have it delivered in 2 months, or was it like a custom order? People have said that they've had some trouble getting those pieces out of China, that it's taken like 9 months to a year in some cases. So that's very interesting if you were able to pick one up and it took 2 months. Very reassuring, frankly, that they might be a little bit on the mend in terms of the delays that they've been experiencing. Naruto-kun, also, I have a Huawei. It's their 9260 Unokobe blade. Love it. Had to swap the Tsuba. Stock was very sharp on the edges. Yes, I don't know that their finish quality in terms of the Tsuba that they choose is necessarily fantastic. Some of them have come with like remade or recast Japanese style fittings, but I incidentally also picked up a Huawei blade secondhand, and theoretically it will arrive here at some point, though USPS has not scanned it yet. So I hope it arrives, and if it does, then I'm gonna have to make some more fun conversations about the My Little Pony katana, because that is what I'm gonna do with it. I'm gonna turn it into a My Little Pony katana. Spend way more money than I should on a My Little Pony sword. But progress is being made. Joe, I liked your earlier video today, sir. Put out Joe Steel Forged in Fire, Sword and Knife is here. Egan, Minnesota. Well, good deal. Justin, is Tamahagane worth it? That would depend on you. If you like the artistic qualities of that steel and it makes you feel better to have one made from it in terms of some historical tie, or makes you feel more connected to the sword for some reason, then yes, I think it's very pretty stuff. I respect and appreciate the work that goes into making it. But if the question is it superior in terms of performance or ability to take shock, resilience. No, it is not. I think all things being equal, a homogeneous steel would probably be a superior option versus Tamahagane, at least in the realms of what, well, I don't know that it necessarily matters. But also bear in mind that Tamahagane made from like what you might have seen on a documentary on the History Channel, that kind of traditional Japanese Tamahagane bloomery process that they use in the Tatara, where you get this giant wad of steel that takes, days and prayers and blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know that they're doing the exact same thing in forges in China for, $300 to $700. So it's not to say that it isn't bloomery steel or that a similar process isn't used, but at the same time, bear in mind, it might not be the exact thing that you wanted. People define that and use that word kind of, it means more broad things than perhaps it should, right? All right. So anyway, is it worth it? That's yes, it takes more work. So is it worth more money because of the laborious processes that go into it? I don't think it's a ripoff, but if you're doing it for performance reasons, then I'd say try to. Well, I don't think you'll get your money's worth from that aspect of it. Speed, could you tell me if there is a good? Could you tell me if this is a good sword? Iron Tiger Forge, Han Dynasty Jian with cord grip. I can look, but I can't share my screen, so this will probably be boring. Forge. Iron Tiger Forge, as far as I'm aware, is exclusive to Cult of Athena, and they are like a house brand. And most of the stuff that I see from them tries to shoot for, competitive features, like a lot of house brand type things do. Like if you think of the Kirkland at Costco or something like that, that kind of house brand. I don't know if it's exactly the same way, but I believe it's probably something that's in my mind what it's like. Whether I can't substantiate that though. At a glance, it looks chunky. I don't know. I don't have any experience with it. It looks like the handle is a little bit round. If that is good or bad, the blade looks like it has good clean lines. It has folded steel, which looks is similar to a lot of the LK Chen blades that I've seen. And if it's similar, then I think it's very attractive. $400 is not an inexpensive price, but it's also, you could certainly do worse with that. If this looks a bit on the big side, though, I don't know. I can tell you that I have a magnificent Chujian from LK Chen, and I don't think it's as big, but I really like the way it balances and feels, and I've been a fan of it. I've sung it's one of the people have told me that review, well, I seem to be glowing a little bit in it, that I really, really like that sword, and that is true. I've gotten a chance to swing it around a little bit more now, and I haven't broken it, but I have pushed it and abused it, and it's held up well, and it's also very easy to move around in my eyes. So if I were knowing what I know now, I would probably lean towards that, but I don't necessarily, that the Chujian is a little bit more, I think, but not by much. I might direct you that way. Otherwise, nothing inherently looks bad about it. I haven't had one and can't give you a whole lot of feedback. If it's similar to the Iron Tiger Forge Mitsudome Katana that I got recently, then there are some things that I see on that roughly $400 sword that are missed, that are not missed on other $400 swords. But pros and cons. It's also light and lively, where some other swords are chunky. So anyway, if the Iron Tiger Forge piece is similar to that, then I would say you might have similar pros and cons. Hopefully that helps. But I haven't had one in person, so I couldn't really comment much more. Everything that I have is really hearsay from a photo on the internet. Side 007, it was new in stock, and I got their Huawei Dotanuki Okasaki Choji Hamon Katana. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I think some people might have done some custom orders, or maybe ordered one that was out of stock and they're not in production yet. I can't really comment on why that would be, but if you bought one that's in stock, then the turn time makes a little bit more sense. I know that shipping is very slow, so 2 months even seems like a little bit longer than it should be for something that's in stock and ready to ship. I oftentimes get things in like a month, or sometimes even as little as 2 weeks. But I'm also, a lot of them are review samples, so they might be putting some sort of priority on it in terms of shipping. But that makes a little bit more sense. If it was in stock, then that makes some sense. Garland, from my understanding, Huawei moved to a larger shop and orders are coming out much quicker. Customs are still taking longer. Yep, I'm glad that they're moving to a new shop, though. I hadn't heard that. King, is Swords of the Northshire a good brand? Yes, that would be I made a review on one of their products. I would like to actually do another one. I did ping them some time ago to get another review sample to check out something a little different, but I thought their customer service was good. That seems to be more or less the consensus, that the service is good. As a brand, it seems like they're, at least I think of them a little bit more as like a project manager. I don't know if they have their own forge and manufacture their own things. The fittings and swords and things that they do don't necessarily seem to be bespoke to Swords of Northshire or unique to them the same way Hanwei or Dragon King or Skyjiro tend to have their own kind of unique fitting sets and things like that. It seems like Swords of Northshire draws from similar parts bins and uses similar vendors that other manufacturers in Longchuan do. And what you have them do is, well, you pay them a little bit for customer service, but I do think you get a good experience from them, and the swords that people get seem to be enjoyed. So I do think that they make, or at least sell, very good product. I lost my train of thought now. Goldie, do you think Ronin Katana makes overall good swords? Yes. If I go through their lines, then the RK series that they have for katanas, the entry level stuff, I actually like. I did a follow-up review. The RK katana was the first review that I ever did on this channel, and I mean, at the time I had experience in that I had lots of swords, but certainly less familiar with YouTubing and doing review stuff, and I've learned a lot since then. So I did a follow-up video not all that long ago. It's probably been a couple years, but recent-ish, and they were still good. They took a pretty substantial beating before they broke. They were quiet to use as a practitioner tool. Overall, I thought that for the budget price of like $140, there was a compelling offer there. I thought they did really quite good for that entry-level price. The Dojo Pros, I just have a new one to follow up on as well. It's been a minute since I've done one of those, so I'm in the process of reviewing it. It cuts wonderfully, and it's more balanced than I recall the Dojo Pros being. I haven't done anything abusive with it yet, and the Ito is on the looser side, so that is worth noting, and it's starting to come undone just a little bit, and I'm debating the best way to either do I stitch it now, because I've been using it for a couple weeks for EI. But yes, in terms of resilience, they historically have been really good. I just haven't updated and validated that recently. So I do think that they make good swords, though. And if you don't mind, somebody mentioned beeswax might be a good, or some sort of wax on the handle, or lacquer is a thing that I've used to tighten some of the Ito. If you don't mind that and you're looking for resilience, then the Dojo Pro I think they do make good quality resilient swords if you're favoring kind of a beater. If you go up to the elites and stuff like that, I haven't gotten a chance to really play with one of those to the point of destruction. I have tested some of them, and it didn't go as well as I would have liked. The one that I had, I made a bit of a drunken review on and called it the Jennifer, and it was not. It's a funnier, tongue-in-cheek kind of video, if you will. But I didn't think that it presented a particularly great value proposition. At the same time, one of the few swords that I have ever bought retail was a Ronin Dojo Elite. And so I like the theory of non-folded but laminated blades, and I appreciate the skill and stuff in there. I do like the Elites, but I haven't pushed one and played with it enough. And I don't necessarily think the build quality is an order of magnitude different than the Dojo Pro line. It's just like the blade steel. But they do look really cool. So anyway, yes, I do think they make good products. I like Ronin Katana. Bear in mind that on the Dojo Pros, the Ito tends to be a little bit on the looser side, so that's something you got to bear in mind. But again, the blades tend to take a lot of crap before they break. All right. Garland, Tamahagane is for collecting purposes. I mean, yes and no. I use the example of a Hanwei Shinto made from railway steel. And initially when Hanwei started making the Shinto katana, they used Manchurian railway steel, and now they don't use that anymore. I don't know if it's because they've used it all. I'm not sure. But also historically, gunto were made of that in some cases. So not all gunto, but some of them were. So practitioners, when they stopped doing the railway steel, the secondhand market for those railway steel blades went up, and they were appreciated. And when I would ask people, like, why do you care? A lot of it was the historical tie to swords that the Japanese, steels that the Japanese had actually used. And so Tamahagane is, I think, potentially a similar thing. It's not just for collecting, but if you're doing EI and you're not actually striking anything, or you are and you want the blade to act potentially a little closer to what a samurai might have used in the day and respond potentially a little bit more similar than a modern homogeneous steel. There's some people that do that want either a historical tie to their practice, that aren't going to cut and just want something that looks pretty, or that are going to cut and want the blade to act at least as more similar in response to bad cuts than to a more authentic blade. So it's not just for collecting, but certainly I would say that's likely the dominant reason people would buy them. Sai 007, I'm just going to call you Sai from now on. I hope that's okay. Spoke to Danny at Skydro. My Kiku no Hana, the chrysanthemum, will be sent this week after 12 months of wait. I hope it's worth it. I hope you enjoy. Joe, Steel Forged and Fire, he sung the praise. He seems to enjoy the Skydro that he waited a long time for. So I'm glad they're kicking out some nice stuff. Have you ever gone through any South Asian collection? Tulwar, Qatar. Have I ever gone through? I mean, I've seen them in museums, and I have a Tulwar and a Pulwar, and I've had some various bits and bobs, I guess I would say, from South Asia, the Philippines as well, if you want to call that. I have Campilan, and I've collected some old Bolo and some other Filipino style blades, but not extensively in Indian stuff. I've looked a lot in the area, and I tried to find some, but it's tough to. Anyway, I'm not experienced at collecting them exactly, and so when I try to buy them, I usually get outbid on the good stuff late, and I end up disappointed and very quickly selling off stuff that I overpaid for. I did actually get a book recently on Indian weapons that I've been gradually moving through, but I haven't actually had a whole lot of extra reading time because Brandon Sanderson writes books faster than I can read them. A Sinner, in your opinion, in Naginata, 17.5-inch blade, 47-inch shaft, where should the point of balance be? Is there a modern versus traditional approach that differs? I would speculate that the vast majority of historic Naginata, if we were actually able to get records of every single one, the majority of them would probably be a little bit smaller than the example you see on the Hanwei Naginata, which would be an example of probably a bigger version. But they also came in substantially larger versions too. There were some that were very large. So I don't know that they had the same. I think the variety on Naginata sizes were probably larger than what you might see on Katana and Uchi Katana, Tachi, and the like. So point of balance, though, that's a tough one. I don't honestly know where the point of balance should be. In Katori, we're usually holding the Naginata towards the middle, and certainly the The other end, the blade end, is heavier, but it's also important that the tang run pretty deep into the shaft. And that's usually the problem with a lot of the modern made pieces, that the tang is usually like 8, 10, 12, maybe 15 inches, but very seldom does it actually run underneath the hand that would be holding it in the middle. They don't tend to get braced properly, so the shafts break a little further up and aren't, well, and the shafts are often weak. But point of balance, I'm not honestly sure. 17.5 inches would be on the larger side of Naginata. Not the largest. I know they go to extremes, but that would be a big one. 47-inch shaft. I don't know how. So 42 inches for. It's still, that would still be a relatively short Naginata though. But generally speaking, I don't know that the point of balance is as crazy, because you move your hands around quite a bit more. I'd have to think. I don't have the data to support it though. I mean, frankly, I can pontificate on the issue, but I don't really have a huge amount of experience to dwell on or information that I can draw from. So I will call that out right there. The point of balance, though, I will say in a Naginata, bearing that context in mind, is when you're moving your hands around quite a lot, I don't notice the point of balance shift as much. Longer Naginata make a bigger change in how you move. But I say that because in the boken side of things, if I go to a seminar or something and there's a bunch of Naginata that I can draw from, and my hands, as I'm working with a partner, sometimes I get a heavier one, sometimes I get a lighter one. And there's, at the last seminar I went to, there's a reasonable variety in sizes of Naginata and weights, actually. So some of them, there's Big Red, I know, is one of the infamous Naginata at the dojo. And it's a chunkier one, right? But I don't notice it being as it's not as noticeable a thing as you're moving it around. Your grip is very spread apart. The point of balance doesn't. I can't say that it comes to mind as much as it does with the sword, which you immediately feel is tip heavy, and your hands are somewhat restrained on where they can go. Not that it isn't an issue, but or that it doesn't matter, but that I can't say that I've noticed or thought about it as I've looked at various Naginata. But I will now. Now I'll have to think about it. YouTube Punk, I can vouch for Swords of Northshire, but the prices have jumped a few years back, so I went with Sino Sword. Yeah, Jeku tends to look very similar, and your dollar probably goes a little further for very similar things, but at the same time, the service is a little bit different. I like both vendors, and Jeku has sent a number of things my way, and I've been very happy with the correspondence that we've had. At the same time, if I gave both Jeku and Sino Sword, or Jeku, Sino Sword, and Swords of Northshire kind of off the wall customization, goofy things. I sent this laundry list of nonsense, which is not a great sword. I wasn't trying to build the coolest or best sword. I was trying to get a sword loaded with features so that I could show you in a review a lot of different options that vendor has and how they come out. And the Swords of Northshire guys got closer to the laundry list of dumb that I put on the sheet than Jeku did. And I hear a lot more that people that are ordering from Jeku have, this or that facet of their order that didn't quite go according to plan. And it's not that they don't make it right or that they're bad, but if time is precious and you want to get it right, I would gamble a little bit more on the service of Swords of Northshire, and I would say that there's more opportunity for issues to pop up with Jeku, not functionally, but that your order might not be exactly what you expected. In any case, I think they make it right. But as I think about, I'm in a position in life now where I'm a little bit older. I have a little less free time, even though I'm using some of it to stream on YouTube, and it makes it seem like I have an abundance of it. And so I would rather pay a little bit more money myself to get exactly what I ordered and not have to deal with returning or even the bother of emailing and waiting. That's just time, and I would rather spend the money to not have to deal with that and just have the thing I want. And if you're that kind of person, then the benefits of Swords of Northshire are something you should consider. If you'd rather stretch the dollar a little further and you're willing to put up with a little bit more this or that, Jayco, I think, makes also very good products, and I'm not disappointed with either company. But if I had to pick between some of the differences, Jayco, your dollar stretches a little further. Swords of Northshire, they're a little bit more accurate with their order. Sai, thank you. Get a Guinness stout on me. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat. I am drinking stout right now, and I have Disgruntled Brewing, which I went to the local beer store, and they said that these guys are probably not going to be making beer anymore, which makes me sad because the beers are pretty good. But I have a Total Beer Anarchy stout, a stout with chocolate sandwich cookies, blackberries, vanilla, cocoa nibs, lactose, and sea salt. And the last beer that I had from them tastes like they mixed in blueberry pancake syrup with it, which I did not mind at all. But this one is a little bit more my speed. I enjoy it quite a bit. But now, stout. I'm gonna pick up some Guinness. Thank you, Sai. Oh, that is very yummy. I'm parched. Thank goodness I got this beer. Garland, did I hear you found a blade for the My Little Pony project? Yes. Did you find a light? I did. I don't know which model it is. It's an Unokobe Zakuri differentially hardened blade on the more basic side with a brass habaki. Sword friend Zed sold me one secondhand, and theoretically it is coming my way. And it's a little lighter blade, and it looks like it has a nice Zazie Hamon, which frankly a lot of the Huawei blades do. It's got a very nice tang, and I'm confident that it will make a fun project. So now I need to, well, once I have it, I can start drawing out some stuff and figuring out what I want to do with the My Little Pony Katana project. But yes, I will be moving forward with the My Little Pony Katana project. I do need to have the blade in hand, though, so I can measure out approximately what I want. And I might actually ping the folks at Beiser. I've seen them do some really cool work, but they might be able to powder coat a set of fittings for me or make something unique. And as I'm going through my mind right now with the My Little Pony project, I am thinking, what is most likely to sell, frankly, because I would like to sell it, but I also have to be okay with keeping it. And so I was talking to my daughter, who is a little bit more of a My Little Pony aficionado than I am. And I asked, is it better to have a sword that fits in My Little Pony or a My Little Pony that fits in a sword, right? And so nearest I can tell, there's the first fork in the road is thematically, do I stick to the show in some way? And I think I have an idea of what to pick. I've learned a little bit about My Little Pony since I first said I would make one. Incidentally, the My Little Pony brony community of folks has been very generous and kind with their time. I haven't had another project experience like it, but people have reached out and shared their thoughts and opinions. They've been very genuine and kind, and it's really put some kind of pep in my step about, proceeding with the project and thinking that there might be other people that actually enjoy it. Anyway, the point is I can either make a sword that looks a lot like, has the decals and like they're called cutie marks, and I can preserve the color template of a particular character and this mark, which is very similar, frankly, to a Japanese mon. Like if I think of the swirly mitsudomes that I'm so fond of, there's a lot of those different style mons, and this cutie mark could basically fit in place of them. And I can do that exactly so that those are worked into a theme on a sword, and I can do that. Or I can do something a little different and try to Japanese katana-ify those things. I've been really leaning towards the Rainbow Dash character, and as I understand it, it's a very bold color, and it was the one that my daughter was most a fan of. So she's got this cutie mark that's a cloud with like a lightning bolt coming out of it, and so I could stencil that in the sword and have that exact thing put on, or I could do something a little cooler with it. And if you think of almost like the Ghost of Tsushima style, like cloud fittings that are on some of the Kojiri area, basically I could make a Tsuba, for example. And if I can find somebody to do it cost effectively, I could make like a Japanese kind of violent cloud, like a storm cloud looking Tsuba, and then have like the lightning bolt run around it. So it could actually be round and still thematically be similar, but be very, very much more in the style of Japanese art. And I don't really know which way is going to be better. I inherently think that if it's like a Japanese styled katana that is an homage to My Little Pony, that would be something I would rather have. But if my goal is to make a My Little Pony katana, then maybe I stick with the original, make the katana fit in the My Little Pony universe, and make sure that like the colors and various symbols that are important to a person that enjoys that content are there and on full display. So I don't know which way I'll go, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about now. That was a very long-winded response, and I'm lost on chat now. So you get the good angle of me while I read the next one. Mathematics. Matt, I talked to Skydro on the phone. Funny thing, the dude said a lot of people are pissed at them and they're trying to get swords out. He said they get components from Japan. They probably do get some pieces from Japan. I don't know, though. I know that a lot of people are really struggling to get parts and get things in China and get things manufactured. So but yes, in fairness, though, a lot of people were pissed at them before. So they were not known as a particularly prompt shop prior to the pandemic. And I think certainly that has exacerbated things. But honestly, my personal take is if any business is just very frank with the customer and says, if you want the thing that I have, it will be this much time. Then fine. Like I think there are people that will totally wait for the thing. There's just those same people won't wait longer than they're promised, right? If that makes sense. Matt, after hearing someone in this chat getting almost my exact sword in 2 months, I just emailed Jackie to say, what the fuck over here? Well, yeah, it's a fair question to ask, Joe. Let me know what you get back. If it makes you feel better, I did not get any review sample from Huawei, so they're not sending me anything to share. I had to go find one secondhand. So they're at least not sending out review samples instead of to customers. So there's at least that going for them. But I'm interested to hear what they say. Justin, I just ordered a custom sword made from Hanbon like a week ago. What are your thoughts? I thought the Hanbon sword was really compelling. They actually just pinged Yao at Hanbon and asked if I could review another sword from them because I've gotten more questions. And the one that I saw from them was probably closer to their more entry-level line at about a $200 sword. So he told me to go on the website, look for some stuff. If there's anything you'd like to see me review in particular, then let me know, and I will take a look. I need to look on their website and see what tickles my fancy. But inherently, I'm thinking something on the higher end side since I've looked at something on the more basic side. But for $200, I thought it was really good. I haven't done a custom order from them, but what I did see on the $200 sword suggested to me that they know how to put a sword together, and it held up reasonably well and was overall, yeah, I thought the sword was very nice. Goldie, do you like sushi? If so, what is your favorite kind? I do. I had sushi for lunch today. I went to a sushi place near me, and I live in Minnesota, so keep in mind that it is, some people wouldn't necessarily call it sushi, but it's what I can get. And I ate a lot of it, and it was delicious. And yes, so what do I like? Eel is probably, I tend to go for they call them a caterpillar roll, but avocado and eel are certainly favorites. Unagi, I think that's the Japanese word for it. But yes, I really like the eel, and I like eel nigiri. So the little rice pads with stuff on top of them. I ordered quite a lot of those. Otherwise, I stick to like salmon and tuna nigiri quite a bit. So those are the other go-tos. Sushi is really expensive. So when I go there, like I'm not particularly adventurous in the sushi that I eat, not because I don't like it, but as I think of like urchin and squid and octopus and the like, I don't enjoy them as much as just a really nice piece of tuna. So I tend to just order my favorites, which I'm a simple man. So unagi and then, or the eel, salmon, and tuna are where I gravitate to. I'm also a fan of, I think it's called chirashi, but like the rice bowl with all the stuff just thrown in with the mixture of different stuff. I will order that from time to time as well. But that's also one that I enjoy. Garland, okay, fair point. Enough for the Tamahagane. Do you want to destroy a Ronin Elite for a video? I have a scratch and dent I'm selling, but I'll send it to you as a thank you if it doesn't sell by the end of the month. I'd be happy to. I don't know how many people doubt that the Soshu blades that they make are in fact Soshu blades, but I would be happy to. I'd be happy to. Yeah. Do I want to destroy it? Yes, I do. More or less, like I'd like to show it, and I don't have any personal reason to doubt that Ronin manufactures blades in the lamination technique that they're stating, but it would be nice if I'm going to test one out and push it to failure to then etch it and kind of show that. And if it's coming from a random person, that's almost better, I think, than if Ronin were to send me one, because I think there's probably less doubt in that. If you're open to that, Garland, I would certainly take you up on it. The Danimal. How are you doing tonight, Matt? Also, it's good to see some of the regulars in chat. I agree. It is nice to see some folks pop in and chat. I am doing pretty well. I have a tasty stout, and I'm going to play video games later, and I don't have to work tomorrow, so things are quite good. And I get to play with swords. The only downside would be that I tried to render a video earlier today, Danimal, and I didn't render it right. And so now I have to set my computer to cook mode to get the extra 5 minutes that for some reason I didn't get the first time. But small problems, good problems to have, given what some folks are going through. My problems are very minor. I'm a blessed man. Hey, Center, the balance is roughly 28 inches from the tip, 35 inches from the base. Tang is about 9 inches. The tang being 9 inches would be really concerning because I think you said that the blade was 17 inches long. And if your blade is 17 inches long and your tang is 9 inches long, I generally think that from a Naginata standpoint, like you should, in most cases, have a tang longer than the blade. And that's where a lot of folks seem to make goofy Naginatas. If you have an 8-inch or a 9-inch blade, it almost seems like that could be more of a wakizashi style blade than something on a polearm. Because people whack at that shit. Like you're hitting it with a stick, and as I'm practicing with Naginata, like the assumption is somebody doesn't want to get cut with it and is whacking the pole away. And if you only have 9 inches from the base of the blade, then it's just a wood shaft, and it's a lot easier to break than if there's a tang running through it. So anyway, yeah, I certainly think that could. Oh my, I lost where I was. Yeah, I think that could certainly impact it, but I appreciate you letting me know what the point of balance is, and I can compare it to a Nagi when I get a chance to use a decent one. The one that I have, which is on the wall over there now, is from Sabersmith, and they're not exactly great at like historical representation. All right, Apple is a nice guy. Do you know of a good place to get a cheap Tsuba? Been looking for just a plain Moko Tsuba for my Iaido. No, not a cheap one. They all seem to be somewhat surprising. You can take a look on like eBay or maybe ping JQ or Sino Swords and see what they would charge you for just a Tsuba. You might find one on eBay from like a Chinese vendor. Otherwise, Tazando, Yamato, Badogu, is it Seki? I can't remember. There's a few Japanese places that make cast fittings, but the Tsuba are probably like $200 or maybe more. So that doesn't strike me as cheap. Every now and again, you can find one for like $25 or $30 from one of the Chinese vendors. You can check it out and ask them. That would be the place I would look, but I don't know of a place to get a cheap one. Danimal, I have been busy the past month. I have not been able to make many live streams. Make it to many of the live streams. Well, I'm glad that you can make it to this one. I don't plan them as well as Joe and Scab do. They they put up notifications of when they're doing it. I kind of do spur of the moment stuff. So, but I'm nevertheless glad you could do it. I try to do these honestly at kind of sporadic times, but generally, I guess I'm gravitating more towards late evening Central Time or evening Central Time, not late evening. I blabber on till late evening though sometimes. All right, Guns N' Roses, $3,000 versus $500. I'm not sure what you mean. Do a video on a $3,000 sword versus a $500 sword? I'm not sure what you mean, Guns N' Roses. Speed Gears, is Cast-Iberia okay to order from? They're fine. I would just say you would have to like spending more money. I think they offer their distributors like Cult of Athena. You can find out who an authorized distributor is for Cast-Iberia, and they usually sell wholesale to other distributors like Cult of Athena, for example. And Cult of Athena then, usually sells them a little less than the MSRP. And I'm sure there's a few others out there, though the Hanwei pieces tend to be a little bit the price savings doesn't seem to be as substantial as it maybe once was. Maybe that's an inflation thing or a availability thing. I'm not sure. But anyway, Cult of Athena sells pretty much the same thing, but a little bit less. And if you have problems, they also have like a return policy and stuff. So I don't know that I would direct you to buy directly from Cast-Iberia because Cult of Athena sells the same thing for less. And I think when I asked them, I don't think they get a huge amount of customers. I think they primarily are a wholesaler and not a direct customer kind of place. But you totally can. I have no reason to think that your order would not go through, but I don't necessarily think you'll get the best deal on it. I could be wrong on that. Ooh, chat just jumped around. Hopefully I am catching up to people. Actually just ordered a custom 25-inch T10 Uno Kobe Zukuri from Jakku based on your review. It did turn out a little heavier than I expected, but turned out well. I'm enjoying it. Glad to hear it, Chase. Hopefully it wasn't the exact one that I made, because I tried to say in the video, I didn't try to make that sword to be the best sword. I made it because I wanted him to not have a template to work from and to do something interesting. And in fairness, Jakku did actually get the Bohe that I was looking for. And it was weird. I thought it was cool, but it was a looker piece kind of thing to show features. But if you got the exact same one, hopefully you like it. Though it was not a design intended for intended for everyone to enjoy. It was like buying a car where like half the car is the base model and like the other half is the super upgraded model. Or like there's every feature, but like half from one package and half on another. It's a weird hodgepodge of a sword that I got from Jakku, but they did get a lot of the stuff that I asked for. Nice to see the My Little Pony blade making progress into this. I will make some follow-up videos. Once I get it in hand, I can draw out some thoughts on what I want to do. I'll have to shop around for fittings. I'll have to talk to some My Little Pony aficionados and see what's a little bit more likely. If somebody's buying like memorabilia, or somebody that wouldn't normally buy a katana but sees that it's from the My Little Pony thing and also thinks katanas are cool, would it be better if it was, a My Little Pony katana or a katana that was an homage to My Little Pony? And hopefully I'm going to speculate that it probably has to be not the cool thing that I would like, but something that, but I don't know. I have to talk to people. Anyway, yes, progress is being made. Chase broke about half inch off the tip. Hopefully you can grind. Hopefully there's enough left to leave a little bit of hardened steel on the edge there. Sorry to hear you stuck it in the ground and broke the tip off. What was that from? The Corsican brothers? There was this Cheech and Chong movie from a long time ago where they were twins with some sort of condition where they each felt the other one's pain. And I remember, like, it just dawned on me, like, he's talking to a gal and she thinks he's talking about his penis, but he's talking about his sword and how he broke it. And he says, I stuck it in the dirt and broke the tip off. And now we'll have to figure that out. That was good sword talk, good sword banter. Garland, hate to admit it, but I started doing my own research on My Little Pony project and came up with 2 designs. So, excellent. I would be happy. I'd be happy to see it. I don't want this to be the My Little Pony podcast, because I know I've gone. There's a lot of people that are not interested in My Little Pony, and I've gone on quite a bit. But yes, I'm interested to see designs and how it could work. I've really held off on the ideation side of things until I could find a blade, and then once I have it in my hand, then I can start dreaming a little bit. But I'm leaning towards Twilight Sparkle or Rainbow Dash, and the rainbow just seems absolutely ridiculous, and that's why I kind of want to do that. Plus, it was my daughter's favorite when she was a kid, and she says she wouldn't have any nostalgia favorite. She wouldn't care about it now. It's not something she'd want, but I guess if I had to be nostalgic for one myself, having a Rainbow Dash My Little Pony Katana would be the one I would choose. All right. What's your favorite Moan? Swirly Mitsudomes, a sinner. You have to ask. Swirly Mitsudomes, of course, Swirly Mitsudomes. Stop drinking alcohol, smoke weed. I can't smoke. Well, it's not that I physically can't. I totally could smoke weed, but it's not legal in the state where I live, and I have too much to lose, basically. So I don't, but I would totally, people around me actually say if weed was legalized, it wouldn't change anything, and there totally wouldn't be anyone that smokes weed that didn't already. And I say liar, because I am that guy. I would totally I would still have stout, because these are frankly delicious. But I would partake of the ganja for sure if it were legal, but I can't. Plus, I carry a firearm quite a lot, and the regulations on that are pretty clear, that if something were to happen, and then I could be tested and found that sometime too much to lose is basically it, and I can't. Yeah, so I don't smoke weed, but it's not because I am morally against it. It's just that I'm not in a position where I feel like it is prudent to do. Goldie, nigiri is great. Yes, it is. I find that I like nigiri. I'm also a bit of a barbarian when it comes to eating sushi. We get the yum yum sauce quite a bit, and not with like really nice sushi. Well, my daughter, if I bring her a really nice sushi, she'll ask for yum yum sauce and like dip the whole really expensive roll or the nigiri in the yum yum sauce and eat it that way. And I'm like, why don't you just get that? But for some of the less refined sushi rolls, the all you can eat plate, I have to say, I like dipping some of them in the yum yum sauce. Not eel though. Eel I don't like in the yum yum sauce. I don't bastardize the eel, but sometimes with the salmon, totally I do. Lasklin, hopefully I'm saying your name right. What are your thoughts about Ghost of Tsushima? According to you played it, I actually haven't played it, but I have seen the swords on, because there are a lot of swords, and there's one with like swirly clouds and stuff. I haven't played the game, but I have seen some of the character models and swords and stuff like that from it. But I thought it looked really cool. I have a PlayStation. I just can't say that I played it in a long time. I do PC stuff, and Ghost of Tsushima, it's not the kind of game that I play. It's just not convenient for me to particularly play it. So it looked like a lovely piece of art, and it looked really fun, but I didn't actually end up playing it. It got lots of praise though. So maybe if it comes to PC sometime in the future and is on a Steam sale, maybe I'll pick it up and play with it. At the moment though, I tend to gravitate towards Apex Legends, Rocket League, and I'm also trying to make my way through Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous. And sometimes any one of those frustrate me so much that I have to drop it and play the other one. But I don't, until I make it through Wrath of the Righteous, I don't know that there'll be another one in rotation. Otherwise, I went to like RimWorld, Civilization 6. Those have been fun. I did play Kenshi for a minute, but I tend to do strategy type games quite a lot, and isometric RPGs. I tend to like those. I'm really looking forward to Baldur's Gate 3 when it comes out, and I'm fine for them to wait till it's ready. Oh my, super chat. Stryklex24, Strelix. No, there's not an L. Strykrex. Sorry about the name, but thank you for the super chat. Need to sell my katana. I bought it for $500, and it has a dent in it, but it's fixable. Where can I sell my blade? eBay, I think, is your best option. And if you're just transparent about the things that are bad about it, and you take clear photos of it and you describe it well and provide as much information as you can, that is where I think most of the swords that I've sold tend to go. Sword Buyer's Guide forum has a marketplace area where you can list your stuff. There's some rules there, so check that out. But the forum there is a good place to sell things as well. And then there are Facebook groups like Sword Buyer's Guide and All Swords and Completely Katana, if it's you said you have a katana. And so you have to be careful because Facebook doesn't allow you to sell swords, but you can, ask people that are interested to inquire. And those tend to be the places. I would say eBay is the easiest, though. They take their pound of flesh, but at the same time, things move a lot of times, and people are a little bit more comfortable oftentimes on eBay than some of the other direct buying things. I bought it from a website that allows you to customize your own sword. Yeah, so if you bought a sword and you customized it and it's your own design, sometimes my experience in selling katanas has changed in the last. I haven't sold a lot of stuff in the last 2 years, frankly. I've been very slow, and my intent was to review things, and I've just been really pokey at actually putting things up for sale. But prior to, a lot of times Japanese style sword got like a 50% return on mass production items. So whatever you could buy it for from Cult of Athena, if you wanted to get rid of it quick, you throw it up for about 50% of what Cult of Athena had it on for, provided it doesn't have any egregious issues. And if it did, then less. Sometimes you could get closer to asking price, but now things are different and weird, and I don't know if that's the case. People seem to be selling things for closer to what a new one would cost than has been the case historically. So I don't. I'm not sure exactly what is fair to expect for it, but I would say throwing it up on eBay or Sword Buyer's Guide forum would be good places to start. Hopefully that helps, and thanks for the super chat. Garland, fun chatting as always. Thanks for these random rambles. You are welcome. I'll get you later for the Ronin. Sounds good. And you might have left already because I'm slow on chat. I'm going to try and catch up here. Fallen student, do you have any experience with certified modern Nihonto from Japan? How would you compare them with the stuff we get from custom Japanese swords from Western bladesmiths? Different. Western bladesmiths tend to, or at least a lot of the examples that I've seen, tend to be not as beholden to using traditional methods. There's more modern homogeneous steels that are used, and a little bit more experimentation with shape than I tend to see. Not always, though, and I have a lot less experience with modern, like Gendaito from certified smiths out of Japan. I don't have a huge amount. I see them at like Nihonto shows and that kind of thing, or I'll see them for sale from photos, but actually holding them and owning them is not something that I have as much experience with. So it's not necessarily as fair, but modern Japanese style swordsmiths in the Western side of things, or American swordsmiths, shape tends to be a little different. I think the Japanese folks tend to nail the historic portions a little bit better, or get the shape a little closer. But I don't know. A lot of times they're not as bold and zazzy either. But they're, as far as I understand, if you're a traditional you're a swordsmith inside Japan, that's a licensed smith, then you have some limitations on how many you can create and the materials you can use and some other stuff. So it's not a surprise that there's that kind of difference. The smiths that I also see here, I don't know that there's as much a focus on art. Not that it isn't art, but performance and how good is the steel and Is it going to function well? Are paramount? Not that they aren't with the Japanese style smiths, but I don't know. There are, for example, Howard Clark blades. The teacher in my Toyama Ryu dojo uses a Howard Clark L6 blade, and he's very generous with the blade. He doesn't tell new people that come to the dojo to cut for the first time, when he says you can use my sword, that it's basically worth a used Toyota Camry, right? And they're cut very poorly with it, and it bends and it flexes and it gets whacked hard with bad cuts into used tatami. And I saw one person that was maybe a little too short to use the longsword ticket and smack the tip right into the concrete floor underneath, and it held up. And so performance is, and resilience tend to be very, very important to buyers here that are using them, and a lot of the smiths that are making them. And I don't know that the emphasis is the same, rather like a tie or making things how they were, making a traditional sword and kind of perfecting the classics seems to be the focus there. And there's maybe just some different emphasis placed on facets of modern swords made in the West in the Japanese style. But I don't know. That's one take. I like them all though. But yeah, they're just different priorities. It seems a little bit. Well, I said I was going to catch up, and then I read a question and blabbered on for a minute. Not a raccoon. Did I miss anything good? No, I blabbed a lot. Is the whole authentic Nihonto thing all hype? No. To elaborate, if you want a traditionally made Japanese sword and that is what you want, then it's not hype. I mean, there's a lot of well-preserved artifacts that you can see and study and appreciate and hold a weapon from the past, and it's really cool. When I go to the Oakshott Institute and they let me touch and handle things from the collection, and they're actual medieval swords that may have seen battle or show signs that they did, it's cool to hold those objects. And fortunately, a lot of Japanese style swords have been preserved, and there are still people practicing the same craft that make things in the way that their forefathers did many moons ago. So there's probably obviously some differences too, some power tools and the like, but there's also a lot of similarities. And so if that is important to you, then no, it's not hype. It's very cool. But it's the same thing with any other handmade good, right? Like, is it, I'm trying to think, like, is it cool if somebody makes handmade clothing and they make the fabric themselves, or they do that kind of thing? Is like homemade food, better if somebody, churns the butter and bakes their own bread? Is that better? Well, food might be different, because oftentimes it's unquestionably better. But like homemade clothes or homemade furniture or something like that versus something you might buy that's mass produced or modernized differently. If it's important to you and it's something you enjoy, then I don't think so. And it's also very interesting. Again, it's not that Japanese smiths are the best ever, but the work and effort that went into making those things and how you can see it in the patterns of steel are really, I don't know, they're very cool. And it's not that other places and cultures didn't have very talented smiths whose work you can see. They seem to be less abundant. So yeah, I don't think it's hype, but I also, like, if you mean hype, like, can authentic Nihonto cut through a tank? Yes, that's hyperbole. But are they the best? It just depends on what you want. And generally speaking, I think that people that buy swords assume that everyone else, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, but a lot of people with very vocal opinions seem to think that the reason that they buy a sword is the same reason everyone else does. And that's just, there's a lot of people that buy for different reasons. And for some reason in the hobby, some people don't, we can't just all like swords. Some people demand you like swords the same way they like swords. And your wall hangers are shitty and those aren't swords. Or you have to have, antique Nihonto, but not just antique. It has to be before the samurai were disbanded. Otherwise, it's not even really a samurai sword. And if you think differently, fuck you to death. So depending on your thoughts, I would say that it's not it's not really hype. It just depends on what you're interested in. If you're a backyard cutter that wants to have you think Japanese style swords are really cool, and you want a sword of that shape because they're neat, and you also want to be able to whack it into trees and not have to worry about it, I would not say that Nihonto of a traditionally made variety is the best choice for that activity. If you want something that has a tie to history, and that has some facet of Nihonto is interesting to you, then yes, it's certainly worth it. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, Ace Center. It's not wood finished. It's steel shelled wooden apocalyptic thing. It should hold up to abuse because there's steel around it. And yes, it was made from a wakizashi. It's an experiment. Well, cool. You're fine. The shorter Nikago, though, is odd as it is. Like, if you can weld some post onto it and stick it in the tang or something, that would be good. The little steel rings, I mean, if you can put langets on the side that run down and keep the shaft from breaking, that might be a viable option in some way. But if you just have like steel rings that go around it, then like some of the old Naginata furniture, then I'd still be a little bit leery about the shaft breaking. But point of balance, you can certainly counterweight it. They did put like little shovel heads or little kind of, I don't know, pointy bits at the bottom. There were a few different varieties for polearm ends, but the one that I tend to like is this shovel scoopy hook thing at the end, this like half moon shaped bit, and you could make that heavier. I don't know how much it would counterbalance the blade at the end, but you could certainly put some weight all the way at the other end, a big pommel, if you will, and use it to thwap people with. I have seen some with like a brass doorknob looking thing at the base of them too, so it wouldn't be completely ahistoric, depending on how big you made it. Dakota Hunt, any interest in reviewing Yari no Hanzo blade? Saw one pop up on the forums, don't know much about them. I sent a request for a review sample to them some time ago, but I never heard anything back. I'd be happy to. It's not a brand that I've played with, so I don't know much. I think they're primarily sold in Europe, though. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Oh, that's so yummy. But I would certainly be happy to. I'm probably not going to buy one, but if there's ever an opportunity to check out a sample, I'd be more than happy to blabber on about it. At a glance, there's nothing that I saw from Yari no Hanzo that just immediately makes me really curious in terms of what they do that's different or special. It doesn't mean they aren't different or special. I just didn't gravitate towards anything that I saw on their website. But there was also nothing that made me say like, ooh, this looks terribad, and I should warn everyone to stay away and buy one just so I can be like, this is poopy. I didn't spot any of that either. So it falls into this kind of gray area of stuff that is hard for me to comment on because I've never held one. Chase, definitely get the same one. That thing was wonky. Good. I'm glad that you got something better. Matt K. Hey, Matthew, just ordered a tonto from number 4 from Ronin Katana. I've seen mixed things about the quality on YouTube. Have you had one? Not from their tonto. The mixed quality that I tend to hear about Ronin is usually a lot about their Ito. Not to say they don't have other problems, but what stands out in comparison to other $300 swords, the Ito tends to be a little bit loose. If I think about like the Hanbon sword that I had or the Ryan sword that I had for under $200, the Ito on either of those is tighter than the Ronin Dojo Pro that I got. And that's something totally worth noting. But the Dojo Pros have also been really, really resilient blades. So what kind of trade-off is that worth is a question that you'll have to answer. If the loose Ito, which is certainly expensive to repair inside the US, is something that bothers you, and the idea of putting beeswax or lacquering it or something is not an acceptable option, it's not a worthy trade-off for maybe the potential benefit the blade might have, then I would say it's worth going somewhere else. But I haven't had a tonto from them. I'd assume they tend to be made from the same thing though, so I bet it's durable stuff. Hey, Sinner, I've been meaning to ask you about, can you do a Bohe video showing samples of each, comparing how the shape affects noise. Also display like a good argument. I don't know that I have a ton. I don't know that I have an example of each. I might, though, coming up. The Romance of Men Katana do have the double bohe. They're not well executed. And I did have a Feilong Higo Katana, but I sent it back to the original owner, or sold it back to the original owner. So that one had a better executed double bohe. But yeah, I should have some examples to do most of the common variety of bohe that people see. That'd be fair. What difference they have is, well, something to blab about, I suppose. It's a good idea. I have to finish or remake the video about ska, good and bad, before I move on to that. But I will probably do something about that sometime. Yeah, I like the topic of video. I'm just trying to think of where I could fit it in. But I do like it. It's a good topic, especially to show examples of what they actually look like. I've kind of wanted, maybe at some point the channel will grow large enough where I can ask a vendor to send me a physical example of everything that they have. So send me one blade in each style, and then with each bohe, so I can make a big catalog of here's what they look like. And it's not a terribly taken cell phone photo trying to show you what the outcome will be. But I have enough here that might be at least helpful. Anyway, not a raccoon. Who has the tightest ska that you've experienced in production katanas? Loose Ito is a massive pet peeve of mine. Jayco has had some good and some okay. They haven't had anything categorically terrible, but they have had some okay, where I could displace the Ito, like 2 millimeters or something. I could push on it. Not that it ever slid around or was terrible, but some that weren't the tightest. They've also had an example which was fantastic. The 9260 spring steel one that they sent me had cotton Ito, and it was very tight and hard to move around. I would say that was a really good example of good. It was in line with the tightness level that I see on some of the Skydro blades, or that I saw on the Huawei blade. Those two, incidentally, tend to be the most consistent in terms of tighter. Nobody does it well until you get to Citadel or Motohara. So, and even them, there's room for improvement, but they are in the category of excellent. But until you get to like a $2,000 sword, I don't see anyone really doing like at the level of expected, right? Everyone is a little bit loose. Huawei, Skydro, I can still push the diamonds around. And what I mean by they're good is I made a whole 20-minute session video about it, but if I can push the diamonds around at all, if I can take my thumb and drive into it with as much pressure as I can put into my thumb without like getting power tools involved, and I can make that fold move at all, then it's not excellent. It could be better. And it's possible to tie that silk or that cotton tight enough where no matter how much you want to push on it with your thumb, it's not going to move around at all. And that's the expectation. That's the bar. That's excellent. That's what people should be going for. And there hasn't been a sword from a production company under $2,000. Well, maybe some of the Motohara ones are $1,500 or something. But shy of Citadel and Motohara, I haven't seen that in a brand. Taisuki, which was also $2,000, was terrible and super loose in the example that I got to play with. So cost doesn't necessarily mean you get it, but both Citadel and Motohara were in the level of really, really good. How much it moves, though, I mean, ultimately you can practice for years with something that's okay, and so long as it doesn't come untied. But the looser it is, the more likely it's going to not feel secure, and frankly, just turn into Squeedle and come undone on you. But yes, Jayco's done it. Huawei, Sino Sword tend to. Hanwei tends to be on the looser side, frankly. I haven't had an example. I've only had a couple examples from them, really, that stood out as tight. And yeah, but a lot of them have been on the Ronin Katana kind of, you get a pass, but you're on thin ice, mister, kind of territory for Ito tightness. I know you say swirly Mitsudomes all the time, but is there a different version? But there are different versions. Yeah, there are different. Sometimes there's a circle around it. Sometimes they face the other way. Sometimes they look a little bit more scratchy. I don't know. They look a little bit more aggressive. Any one in that theme, I tend to like. But themes, I like swirly Mitsudomes, and every time I have a custom maker make a Tsuba for me, I usually have the Mitsudome placed at the 2 o'clock position on the Tsuba, so it's sitting at that position on both the front and back, and then I say do whatever you want from there within my budget. But that's usually the stipulation I have, and that's what I tend to gravitate towards the most, or what I've had made the most and spent the most money on. One time Roman Urban made me a Tsuba that was just swimming in commas, and it was a Tsukashi style Tsuba, and it had the cutout of the Mitsudome at 2 o'clock, and then 2 more larger cutouts, and then just a sea of cutout commas. And I remember he sent me a thing. He's like, "Is this enough?" And I was like, "No, I need at least 30% more Mitsudome." And he did it, and it came out. It was so busy, but it was wonderful. It was on the big Josiah Boomershine folded project. So I made a video about it some time ago. You can take a look at that project, and it's on YouTube. And anyway, that was one of my favorites. It was just a shotgun blast of Mitsudomes. All right, dude. I'm a slut for you. I'm a slut for all you can eat sushi. Tokyo 23 West, St. Paul has great stuff. My favorite place. That's a bit of a drive for me, but I may have to check it out. I'm a sucker for all you can eat sushi as well. Because if I don't go to all you can eat sushi, then it is a $380 bill. Today I ate 30 pieces of nigiri and then 6 rolls. And that's why I'm not hungry. I don't need to eat dinner after that, but I save up. I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat dinner. I just gorge on sushi. But if I go someplace nice and eat that quantity of sushi, then my wallet is sad. I'm like, you know how many swords I could have bought with that? Anyway. Chase, what do you think? What rank are you in Rocket League? I am platinum. And sometimes my friend is champ, and that's who I usually play with. So my rank is probably more inflated because I'm used to playing with a particular person who knows how to let me ball chase and can usually make the best of the bad situations that I create. So I don't think I'm a strong plat, but I'm near diamond, but still I haven't ever gotten there. I stick around plat usually, and that's in 2s and 3s. I'm getting better at not just ball chasing and actually hitting the ball sometimes. Any plans to do a review on that sweet Albion on the wall? Not a lot of reviews. Yes, I would like to do that, and I like that sword. I don't know if I'm saying the name right. Tyroline. Hopefully I am. Big takeaway from it. I keep saying a lot, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to reduce the ums and ahs that I say. The grip on it is bulbous, so it has a larger than Hanwei X handle grip towards the midsection of the handle, the hilt area, the grip, and it is, I don't know if it's just off in the one that I have, but it is bulbous and obscenely large. I still like it though, and I love the doorknob at the bottom, and it's basically just a doorknob, but I really like how the fat of my hand rests in it in comparison to the Maximilian. It's more comfortable, even with the grotesquely large grip. I like that one quite a bit. I've been meaning to get to it, and once I get through some of the, it's not going to happen. I keep getting review samples, so I'm just going to need to get it. Out of curiosity, what would you like to see in that review? Like, what would be helpful? Because I do feel like other people, like Scholar Grimm, have reviewed the Maximilian, and there's been a number of people, and ultimately they're very, very similar swords, right? One, the furniture and hilt look a little different. Apart from that, though, they're very similar in size and in weight and all of that. So what could I add to the conversation, I guess, is really one thing that always tends to put the Maximilian, despite how often that the Tyroline and the Maximilian get asked to have a review made, I kind of keep putting them back because I don't know what I would add. I mean, I find a way to blab on about it anyway. I could do that, but like I don't know what value my opinion would add to the conversation that, you know, more experienced and also competent people out there haven't already put out. Thank you for spelling it out for me. Striker. Is it funny to watch me learn to read while on live stream? Fantastic. Striker, thank you for correcting me. I appreciate it when people tell me how to properly say their name so I can address you with respect. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly now. All right. Nice guy. I'm thinking about getting a custom Iaido from Jayco. I used to study Mugai Ryu, but I'll be starting Shinshin Ryu soon. The average blade length is 33 inches. I'd be hesitant on, well, at least the Iaido that I had from Jayco wasn't my favorite. Point of balance and everything was okay. It's also a $100 piece, so expectations are tempered, and it was perfectly functional to study with. But I'd certainly advocate getting an Iaido from Japan. The fit and finish and stuff like that. Obviously, the Japanese kind of entry level is about 3 times the cost of the Iaido that I tested from Jayco, so not a terribly fair comparison. But as a practice tool, it was superior. And the fit and finish level on the Jayco swords is still generally beneath. At least when I say fit and finish, I mean tightness of ito. In some cases, as well as just how the blade draws and sheathes, and the retention, and how raspy it is, and how it rattles in the saya. Those facets are often important if you're doing Iaido in some sort of traditional Japanese swordsmanship art, and the Jayco piece was not fantastic in that regard. And frankly, a lot of the swords from China in general aren't fantastic in that regard. The Iaido practitioners that are studying the arts in Japan or making tools for it tend to do a little bit better job if that's the primary goal, is drawing and sheathing. I should make a video about that. I say that a lot, but that's another topic that might be worth, you know, why does Matt recommend a $300 Iaido from Japan instead of a dull, you know, live blade from China? Wouldn't it make more sense to dull a live blade or get, you know, a steel blade from China and then dull it if you want, but then you have a real sword at the end of the day? And no, based on what I see, it's probably better explained in a video. But anyway, food for thought. If you do end up getting one, let me know what you think of it. I'm curious if you would have the same thoughts. Java Man, do you have an opinion on swords made from meteorite? Sounds cool, but, well, I mean, yeah, but it's, if you like space rocks in your swords, then it is cool. And again, there's some tie to history. I know there's a dagger from Tutankhamun that was supposedly made from a meteorite, and like there's some tie to antiquity about space rocks that go into things. Personally, no, because they're random and there's stuff in them that isn't great, and it's a pain in the ass to work with them, and the outcome is less predictable. And giving a smith who's going to make a blade you're going to whack into stuff tools and materials that they're familiar working with so that they can make you a very competently made sword is, I think, the vastly better approach to making swords. Not that cool meteorite swords don't exist or that they can't be good. They're really expensive and stand less a chance of being good and have to be mixed with normal shit often to make them stable. So I would say no. Personally, though, I think there's a way you can be happy with it. If you're down with space rocks, then neat. Use those for the furniture on the sword. If you're doing a Japanese style sword or a Chinese sword, I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend it for quillions on a European sword, but you could totally have the meteors pieces engraved with some sort of metal work to make statues or fittings or something like that adorn the sword and aren't in the places that need to be more structurally viable than meteor could potentially provide. In a Japanese sword, you're not getting whacked on the guard a whole lot, and some guards are made out of like wrought iron. I'm pretty sure that you could pound out a meteor and make some really cool Japanese style furniture, and then your hilt, your sword still has your space rocks on it, but you're not jeopardizing the functionality of the blade by integrating, you know, potentially suboptimal material. So yeah, I mean, it can be. And if you got to have space rocks in your sword, then I mean, you got to have space rocks in your sword. You know, that's and people are totally willing to pay for it, and the projects are awesome. But I wouldn't personally choose to do meteorites in swords. They do sound cool, but I don't know. It also is like I hear they often have to be mixed with other steels, and then I don't know. It makes the special sauce less cool. So yeah. But yeah, I did have somebody that was asking me about this some time ago, and I said I just generally recommend that you send that material to somebody that can make Tsuba and Fuchikasha and Minuki and stuff out of it for your katana, and then you need one less material. You're not going to spend 10 grand on meteorites. You're more likely to not get like a shattered blade that, you know, breaks if you ever try to use it, because this blade was going to be used in Toyama Ryu to cut tatami mats. And you still get some cool stuff. Plus, you have a lot more license to tell a cool fucking meteor story on your Tsuba or whatever furniture you put on your sword, whatever it happens to be. I could certainly see how it could integrate into European style swords as well. I'd avoid anything on the Quillians, but you could totally make, you know, a meteorite pommel or integrate some sort of metalwork around the Quillian area and actually have somebody that can tell, you know, some cool story that's interesting to you in the metalwork, and spend your money there. And then if your blade breaks, then you just replace the blade and stick a new one on your meteorite fittings that are not broken. Anyway, yeah, that was probably more detailed than you were hoping for. But anyway, I'm going to read the rest of the questions that are on here. I've been going for an hour and 30 minutes, and I told people I would stream on Twitch today. So even though it is much less popular, I said I'd do it, so I'm gonna. And so I'm going to wrap up the questions here, and then if you want, I will go and do the Twitchy thing, and you can continue to ask me sword questions there if you want. But I gotta switch platforms, and you can watch me fail at Apex Legends or Rocket League. But I will make it through the questions. I see. Not a raccoon. You are the last question I'm shooting for. All right, where was I? Fallen student. Sorry, I meant to clarify. Do they compare in fit and finish? More interested in antiques. Appreciate. I don't practice Japanese martial arts. Thanks for answering. Which one? Fallen student. What was your previous question? I went on a ramble about meteorites, and I've forgotten now what you just asked me. The whole Nihonto hype thing. I think you were asking about Nihonto hype. Is that right? Student, is the whole authentic Nihonto thing all hype? So provided that's what you're talking about, is the generally speaking, the fit and finish on authentic Nihonto is superior. There are some very competent people that make fittings and the like, and so you generally speaking have a pretty well crafted sword. Not always, though. I'd imagine it also has, you know, ups and downs, but there are a lot of people that do really high quality work in Japan on Japanese style swords, and so the examples that I've seen in shows have been very high quality fit and finish levels. They draw really well. The sides are assembled well. Everything that tapers and lines and transitions all seem to be where they're supposed to be. But the examples that I get to see at shows are usually on the higher end price side of things. So, but yes, I do think the fit and finish on them is quite good from the examples again that I've seen. I was just wondering because some Western bladesmith charge tens of thousands, and you could probably buy a nice antique. Yes, you totally can. You can. Some Western bladesmiths do charge tens of thousands of dollars to make a sword in a Japanese style, and you could totally buy a very nice antique for that price. I was asking Paul Martin the other day how much it costs. So Paul Martin runs the Japanese sword. He's got a Facebook spot, and he's very good at connecting Western folks with Japanese smiths and antiques and the like. So I don't know how much he does new blades, but at the same time, he I asked him how much does like a newly made Japanese style sword, a Gendaito, a Shinsakudo, what does that cost nowadays? And around $8,000 from on the cheap side is probably what you'd be looking at. And for somebody of a little bit higher repute, maybe $25,000, somewhere in there was the ballpark. If you want to commission somebody to have something made today, that's kind of the range that you're talking about. Alternatively, though, I see licensed smith blades for sale at various sword shows and things. Sometimes $6,000-ish is a doable price for a modern made blade in good standing that's very pretty. So I don't know, the prices are all kind of all over the map. It depends on everything, but you could totally buy a new or an old well put together sword for what a lot of American smiths charge. But at the same time, I saw Howard Clark blade get swung really hard into a concrete floor and have a little bit of edge roll. I don't know that the traditionally made blades would hold up the same way. And if you're going for a competition cutter, you want a training tool that is materially superior, then there's some reason that those swords also sell for that amount of money. Not always, but I certainly think that both can exist and be cool at the same time. Speed Gears, how do I get a sword that is stuck in a side out? I have two of them, both from Hanbon Forge. Well, hopefully they're not like rusted in there or something. Otherwise, it tends to be tough. Set a pillow down or something like that on the ground and take a rubber hammer, and you can tap on the kojiri area, not hard, kind of light taps that won't damage the scabbard. Hopefully by rattling a little bit and jostling loose whatever might be rusted or caught or swelled in there will help. You should be able to just with tension push with your thumb and take it out. But if it's more than that, you can also kind of with a rubber hammer lightly tap on the Tsuba area of the sword. Don't hit too hard, and don't be surprised if it develops a slight rattle from doing that. If you whack on the Tsuba, it pushes against the fuchi and the habaki, and they tend to be softer than the steel that they're pressed against. So they deform slightly, and you get some rattles, but it might, it's not a great sword if you can't take it out of the scabbard. That would be where I would start. I would tap lightly on the kojiri end of the sword first, the end of the scabbard, and turn it upside down and put something soft underneath so if the sword falls out, it doesn't clank on the floor, and low enough that it's not going to come completely out of the scabbard and fall over and cut you. And do some light taps, and then if that doesn't work, Tsuba tapping, and if that, then more percussive maintenance required, and I don't know that you'll be able to get it out without damaging it if either of those two things don't work. How many swords do you have? TK, lots. I don't know, honestly. I don't keep count. It ebbs and flows. It grows and shrinks. I have one less today than I had yesterday because I broke the Topeka one. Joe, Matt got to run. I have Blade Talk Sunday and Monday next week. We got to get you in. Yes, ping me. Happy to join you, Joe. Ace Center, what's wrong with the ska video? I rendered it wrong and cut off. I just abruptly cuts off in mid sentence, and there's like 5 more minutes of the video that I didn't properly put in. And 2 people noticed. So yes, that is what's wrong with it. Is just that I didn't completely render it, and I uploaded it, and I had it up for, and I didn't notice until I made the video live, and people said, "Is it supposed to end so abruptly mid sentence?" And I said, "No." And then I looked, and I screwed up the part of the video that I said to render. So I need to do that. And I also didn't cover full wraps of ska, and I didn't cover Hishigami. And those are 2 worthy topics to talk about in the sub $500 sword category that I should at least make mention of. So I should, if I'm going to redo it, then I can at least add the extra bits that have come up from conversation. And did I ever try the Zatoichi Flash? I did not. I have been practicing, but I got a couple of review samples, and I'm just working on kata that I'm somewhat familiar with, so I can get an opinion of those. I haven't tried any new fancy techniques. I did also start Katori back up. It was down for the cold winter months of the year. So it had been at least 2 months since I've been in Katori, and we started that back up. So now I'm relearning all the things that I thought I remembered. All right. Did I go over? Not a raccoon was the last one. Reminds me of the Meteorite 1911s. Yeah, making stuff out of Meteorite I think can be cool, but on stuff that needs to be like structural and good, I'd be hesitant. Not a raccoon. We demand more of your time. You're not allowed to leave. Okay. Well, I guess I'm not leaving the internet. I'm just going over to Twitch. I said that was the last one, but I do see there's some stuff here. I'll try to catch up. I got to go quick though, because I'm already late to the party. Pommel inserts are like pommel inserts are a thing like coins and sometimes precious stones, or meteorite pommel inserts would work out. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable idea to have your cake and eat it too. I like the idea, especially on a Japanese style sword, of using meteorite, because then your fittings, you might wear your blade out or bend it or screw it up in some way if you're going to use it, but the fittings can follow a sword, can go on to another sword. Not so much a question as an outright order. Very good. Hey, Matt, some guy went viral with his 25K weapons collection. I think your collection is better. Maybe you could make a clickbait video. I don't want to. I'm okay with not going viral. That's don't get me wrong. I totally welcome the growth, and a lot of people have mentioned ways that I could improve channel. If I make good content and people enjoy it, I'm totally down with what I got already. What concerns me about like a massive influx of people coming in would be that, like, if I made a video collection, if I did a clickbaity thing, then the rest of the content that I have would ultimately disappoint people, and I would get a bunch of questions from people that aren't as interested. And I don't know, that would make a lot of noise, and it would be harder for me to talk to people that are genuinely interested in the things that I have to say or find value in it. So I'm not, if growth happens naturally and there are enough people that find value in it, good, but I'm kind of weirded out by the idea of like a massive influx of people. It worked out kind of the last time. My channel did double when Cerberus Arms mentioned me in a video some time ago, and it roughly doubled at least the subscribers on the channel that I have. And it was not a small thing, but like right away, there were a lot of people that used to be like practitioners and kind of backyard cutters that gravitated towards my channel, along with some antique collectors and, and the like. And immediately a bunch of people joined, and their interests were just much different. And I had to like pause and reshift to make sure I was making valuable content. So anyway, I could do that, but it seems braggadocious, and I would not want it to go viral. But maybe one day I'll do a live stream and clean all the swords, and I can blab about each one of them. I wouldn't be able to take questions though, because I would not get any swords cleaned. Glad to hear you're a fan of the Tyrolean. Mainly curious about the hilt dynamics. Does it feel different than the Maximilian with that? No, not by any significant amount. Holding them side by side, you can kind of notice some slight differences. It's really that the in a single hand, if I hold them side by side, it's just that the Tyrolean grip is fat, and I suspect that that's like not intentional. That maybe mine is just weird because it's stupid fat. All right, I'm about to hop off here. I'm trying to read through and actually catch up with chat before I go, and I'm close to it. Adam, greetings from Maine. Super lucky I caught because you're awesome celebrity. Well, I appreciate that, Al. You caught me right when I was about to leave, though. Adam, so I'm sorry. Alex, obnoxious pony katana. If possible, can we get an idea of cost and start a crowdfund? I'm guessing it's going to cost around $2,200 to $2,500 to make a My Little Pony katana. I'm about $300 in right now, and we'll see what happens. Crowdfunding though, no. If somebody wants to buy it, then I'll be out of my stupidity, but no need to drag your money into this scenario. Wild, I'm at Love Your Streams. I'm glad you like them. Glad you could catch a part of it, even though I'm going to hop off. I'm trying to remove a copper oxide from a sword. I own any good way to do it. I mean, I like flits, and depending on where it is, like if the habaki is copper and rusted on the sword, disassemble it, and then you can like use flits or mother's mag or something like that to buff the area. If it's a habaki and it doesn't have a lot of texture on it, that usually works out reasonably well and comes out okay. If it's got a lot of texture on it, you can just sand it off as well. If it's an antique piece or you're going to lose detail, then obviously use your best judgment there. And if the oxide has gotten on the blade, just about anything you do is going to detract from, pardon me, the overall aesthetic. So, but the same recipe, flits. I had a video on like how katana cleaning with flits worked. It's an old one. And so hopefully the video quality is, gives you still some idea of what it looks like. But that is usually what I do. I find that the flits and mother's mag and stuff will remove like the coffee stain looking rust, but anything that's black or pitted, it makes it marginally better, but at the cost of losing some of the detail in the hata and hamon. If it's on a habaki piece though, you'll probably be okay. Sushi, thoughts on Gensha Blade? Haven't had them. Similar to my thoughts on the Yari no Hanzo stuff that was mentioned earlier. Nothing looks really particularly exciting or bad on the site. I think I requested a sample and never heard from them, so I'm not sure they're in the future, but nothing struck me as worrisome particularly. Choir Boys Cutlery. Hey, Scab. Just passing through. Hope you're doing well. Hope we get a chance to talk about that axe or something sometime. I keep trying to catch up with chat, but it keeps growing. I'm gonna pretty much call it here. I know some folks just joined, and I'm sorry that I am leaving right as you're joining, but I did already stick around like longer than I thought I would. I'm gonna switch over to Twitch though. That's my plan. I'm gonna stream and probably play Apex Legends and die a lot, and then get frustrated and switch to a different game. If you want to continue to ask me sword questions, you are welcome to do so there. But I did say I would switch. So that's what I'm going to do. Tyler S. I don't have a sword joke handy, but maybe next time I'll try to think of one. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks everyone for watching. If you're keen for the rest of the evening, I'm going to go suck at video games on Twitch. So like I said, welcome sword questions there, but that's what I'm going to go do now. I don't always do both in one night, but today I opted to. Hopefully some of you will join. If you don't, I can't blame you because I'm gonna suck at video games. Anyway, cheers. Thanks for watching.